So I have quite a few videos on my YouTube that goes over my butchering and breakdown of the carcass when it comes to the rabbits. And that would give you a better idea of how we use everything and how we kind of break everything down. Now, when it comes to the parts we use and that we don't use, for the most part, the innards such as like the stomach and the intestines, we'll take those and we'll feed them to the chickens. And then for the dogs, we'll use things like the heart, the liver, the kidneys, the ears, the paws. And then sometimes we'll take the hide and we'll turn it into a dehydrated treat. But for the most part, when it comes to the internal organs, we will feed them raw. Mercury is very upset with me right now that I am not feeding her right away, and that instead I have chosen just to pet her first. But she's kind of getting used to the fact that she's getting scratchies first. I really like this little doe and can't wait to breed her in the next 7 months or so. She is just so sweet and has really, really nice type. I'm looking at replacing my Castor doe Sadie for one of her babies, and part of this is going through her most recent litter and trying to decide who I would want to keep if she's not pregnant this time. Because I don't necessarily want to replace her with another Castor. I want to replace her with a black, but all of her babies keep turning out Castor, which makes sense, color genetics wise, but it's still frustrating. But I will say there's a huge difference in kits from 8 weeks, as we see right here, to 12 weeks, and not only in just color. My Castor babies have a really bad habit of darkening up as they get older, which is completely fine. I prefer it that way, but they also fill out much nicer. And then here is the broken Castor at a younger age compared to her today. And the reason why I am looking at both of them is they're both better than their mother. But of course they still do have their flaws. This little Castor peaks a little bit early and is pinched a bit in that hind quarter. And because she peaks a little bit early, it's giving a hollow appearance of her loin. And again, this doe peaks early as well, but she has a more full looking loin. Even on the back, you can see she's not as hollow on that area. But she's still kind of pinched in that butt region. But again, still a massive improvement on her mother in both type and color. And part of the reason I do this is I can like talk out loud to myself and also get people who can comment on top of this because I'm barn blind as heck at times. But looking them over, I honestly think I like the broken better. Because again, this compared to this. And again, that high point is still forward, but that loin I really like. And she has some really nice ratios when it comes to hip to height ratios, even though that high point is over. She has that nice ball-like appearance. And I feel like her paired up with Strawberry could really help to work on some of that pinched area in that hind quarter. Like, I might keep this little broken Castor long enough to get a litter or two out of Strawberry and see what they produce. But yeah, let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Like I said, both would be a very great replacement to Sadie, who on her own, she's done okay producing litters, just not what I've wanted, and she does have a best of group, best of variety on her, so it's not like she's horrible either. It's just these two babies are better. So yeah, please let me know. What do you guys think? When you are looking for a show rabbit, and the best thing to get, what you want to do is learn the standard of perfection for your breed. For instance, this is a Mini Rex. This is one of the most popular show rabbits in my area, and what I normally suggest for 4-Hers as their first show rabbit. We are looking at this point for a very compact body type and the classic Rex fur. To get more nitty-gritty than that, you're going to want to learn your SOP, which is your standard of perfection for said breed. When looking for a show rabbit, I suggest going to a local show or finding a local reputable breeder. If you can get someone with references, that's even better. And then I always suggest asking a lot of questions. Make sure somebody is selling you something that is in basic standard. Make sure the color is showable, make sure the nails and the eyes are the correct color. Make sure that if you're showing a broken, it has the correct amount of color and that it has the proper amount of facial markings. don't buy something too young. I prefer getting something that is at least 12 weeks. 16 weeks is even better because this rabbit is a completely different rabbit than this one right here. In 8 to 12 weeks, there is a huge change in body type, and if you wait till 16 weeks, it's even better. You get a real idea for what the rabbit is going to look like as a senior. If you want an older, proven rabbit, I would suggest not getting anything over the age of 2, because sometimes, especially in a commercial setting, older animals that are older than 2 can start slowing down on their reproduction and can cause more trouble than they're worth. If you want proven, I suggest getting something around 8 months to about a year and a half. That way you have a little grace and wiggle room of something that is proven, but still can give you some time. Now, if you're just strictly doing show and you're not breeding, you can probably get an older animal that's in their retirement years, but it is going to be more difficult to breed them. Stay away from ads that say things like rare color, youth quality, or anything that looks like it has Vienna markings or bright blue eyes on the wrong color. And for the love of all that is good, if you are just getting to showing, don't do what I do. Stay away from rabbits like Silly Sally and her grandson Blue here. Blue-eyed whites are beautiful. I absolutely love them. This is not a project for somebody who is just getting into show rabbits. If you go for something like Mini Rex, I suggest blacks or broken blacks, because out of all of the colors, they are the most refined and the easiest to work with because fur density. When it comes to breeding rabbits and growing your herd, there are a couple questions you want to ask yourself when it comes to how many cages are open while you're breeding. Of course, you want to have the cages that your current adults are in. So let's say you start out with 2 does and a buck. So you'll have cage 1 open for 1 doe, cage 2 open for the other doe, and your 3rd cage open up for your buck. Now, if you aren't planning on keeping any kits, you would want a cage open for your male grow-outs and a cage open for your female grow-outs. But let's say you plan on keeping a doe or a buck out of that litter. You would want at least 1 singleton cage open as well. So now we're talking about 3 open cages. Or let's say you wanted to keep a doe out of each doe you currently had of their first litter. You would then want 4 open cages. You would want your open cages for your male grow-outs, your open cages for your female grow-outs, and then your 2 empty cages for potential replacements of your does or to grow your program. You know how people say chicken math is a thing? Well, rabbit math is also a thing, and I would like to argue that it is a lot worse. So to easily answer this, you want at least 2 cages per doe, open for grow-outs, and an open cage for any keepers. With that being said, in my rabbitry with all the adults I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Normally I have 2 sitting here, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 potential grow-out pins if I were to breed all of my animals at once. Note, I have 28 breeders in total, 19 of which are does. I have a lot of extra cages just in case. You don't need that many, but I know what rabbit math does. But at minimum, I would have at least 3 cages open in my personal experience.
How I feel about certain design choices with little to no explanation. Yes. Yes. Absolutely not. For me, this one's 50-50. 100% no. Yes, and I don't care that it's impractical. I hate these. I think I might hate this even more. Yes, of course. No. Yes, I've grown really fond of this. Surprisingly, I actually like this.
So yes, rabbits do poop a lot. With that being said, I have these trays at the bottom of some of my cages. I empty them out about once a week. This is the amount of poop that is in here after 2 days. Right here is Miss Cookie's tray, and she is wasting a lot more food than I would really be happy with. But this is 2 days worth of poop in this pan. These pans that are underneath these cages I clean out about every 2 to 3 days just because they're a lot smaller. And then if you can recycle it, these pieces of sheet metal off of the side of old barns or houses or whatever make great drip pans. I clean these out again every about 2 to 3 days. And this one is due, so I'm going to go get it dumped. With that being said, I'm just going to go dump it in my garden. Because the great thing about rabbit manure is it is a cold manure and you can just throw it right on your plants and they absolutely love it. When it comes to fostering kits, you kind of have to figure out your own way of keeping track of them. As you can see in this litter, I have a bunch of brown babies. So if I were to foster another brown baby into this mix of babies, it could be very, very confusing. So what I normally do is if I have a different kit, I will take permanent markers or I will take nail polish to mark them. If I only need to keep track of one kit, it's simple just to put a line in the inside of the ear to say that it is a foster. Now, if you have multiple rabbits you need to take care of, they have these amazing pack of permanent markers that comes with like 12 different colors, and you can do the same thing, and except for each line is going to be a different color. And what you'll do is you'll just correlate that color with an identifier. That identifier can be their future tattoo number, such as if I were doing DMA1 Bravo 3. But that's really hard to remember, so normally I just go with a name. And normally I do like a naming series. It just really helps keep it straight in my brain. So I had a litter that was named after spices. I have a litter that's named after Pokemon. A litter that's named after food. Whatever works for you to help you identify these babies. I will say I don't really have this problem with my mini Rex a lot of times because even if they are the same color, they are slightly different. But where I need this constantly is with my silver foxes and my Californians, because they are just so very similar. When it comes to my barn, I have a really bad habit of keeping way too many bucks. A very quick way, though, to get kicked out of my program, though, as a breeding buck, is if you are mean and nasty to a doe. And that is because bucks are good for two things, feeding and the other F word. If they aren't a nice breeding buck and they are either aggressive to myself or the does, it's an automatic out of here. Unfortunately, I figured this out the hard way with Toothless. So Toothless will not be staying in our program, he will not be breeding any of our does, and he will be going into the stew pot. I won't even sell him to another breeder with that kind of attitude. Which is unfortunate because he's a very beautiful buck, just gorgeous. But it isn't worth keeping him in my program and risking him hurting one of my does. Bucks are a dime a dozen. I can find a new one. This is our rabbit, Bravo SS, Bravo Charlie 3. This is a little castor buck out of Strawberry and Sadie at about 12 weeks old. And if we look at him, he has a very forward high point, a very hollow loin up over the top, and he is very pinched in that rear. You can almost see that his heels are almost touching from this viewpoint. And then when we once again view him from a side profile, he has a very long shoulder and he is very flat over that top loin. And because of the issue that I've already stated in his loin, he doesn't have the correct stance on that hind quarter. It doesn't come down perpendicular and kind of slopes off. It is because of these reasons that we are looking not to keep this buck. Not to mention that his father is Strawberry and he is nowhere near the quality that his father is, so he wouldn't be beneficial to our program. Because of this, he is a cull. When I first started breeding, I didn't have show quality breeding stock. I had breed quality breeding stock, also known as brood stock. They weren't horrible per se, but they didn't do well on a show table. And basically what I did is I bred them together and kept the best looking kits and just kept rebreeding them to their parents. It was a lot of selective breeding. and it took a lot of time, energy, and getting torn apart by both mentors, judges, and friends. But I started with stock that I could find and afford. And as long as you're being careful and you're breeding towards your goals, you can slowly get to show quality. With that being said, the better quality you start off with, the easier it's going to be for you. Go to shows, talk to breeders, see if you can find someone who has really good stock for an affordable price. It takes time to get there, but it is totally worth it.